start. Okay. Let me close this one. Okay. All glories to Mother Rytasha, all glories to religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example in the world. Okay, so we're picking up where we left off with the book Love, in the Religion of Love book, with the last of the wonderful commentaries by Mother Rytasha herself. Okay. So, where we left off, all the disciples were sitting together and chanting different names of God all together, and this beautiful realization they had that really it's God we call, not a name we call. And they were chanting all the different names of God from the scriptures together. But it did not please some of the villagers, who held that only their name of God, their ways were true, and they incited the people, saying, "She has come among us to destroy religion." Wait, did we read this last time? Actually, yeah, we did. Sorry about that. We did read this part. Aha, here we go. Out of many gifts may be given to man, spiritual knowledge is the greatest. For material gifts one must guard, but the gift of spiritual knowledge, that will guard you. Okay. And when we chanted the names of God together, none came to disturb us. And traveling the world, we went to the great places of pilgrimage, thinking there to refresh ourselves. But everywhere was found corruption. And there she was asked to speak, and thousands came to hear. And she began, right away, speaking of this corruption. So the keepers of the shrine were not pleased, and rushed forward and rebuked her thus, saying, "You stand on holy ground. Here you may not be offensive." And we were worried, for these were powerful people, and we had come not to cause trouble, but to bring the message of God. And she stopped then and began to pray. And all were silent and waited. And watching her, it seemed to me as though she was not praying, but listening. And when she finished, she lifted her head and spoke, saying, "I have been warned by you not to offend anyone. But I hope now to be very offensive, yes, extremely offensive, to all who make of religion a business. You I hope to offend, and you who squeeze out the last coin from the poor through fear and superstition, you also I offend. And crying aloud, 'O you thieves, whores, and hypocrites, so careful are you to cover your heads, do you not know yet? It is what is in your head, not on your head, that matters to God. You with your beads and beards, on the hunger of the ignorant you have grown fat.' And pointing to the costly buildings, she said, 'Instead of knowledge, you give stone. Your hands are full of blood and money. Your mouths are filled with lies of honey. But your hearts are empty of love. You chastise me, saying, "Do not be offensive." But I tell you, it is you and your ways that are offensive, to God and to man.' And before any action could come against her, she walked out among the pilgrims and said, 'And you, the pilgrims, who traverse half the world to look upon the stones and bones of saints, you who in his own lifetime would not have gone one step with him.' And I was fearful and thought, now some terrible thing may happen here. But the people were good, and surprised me, saying, 'It is true as she says,' and asked of her, 'Speak to us then.' And she did, simply and clearly, and answered all questions, till understanding grew. And this she did for several days. And the people were in awe, saying, 'Why has no one told us this before?' And they became curious, asking, 'Who is she who comes among us?'" Oh, did I lose connection? Okay. I heard a little doodle-doo. I didn't know what that was. Okay. Sometimes things happen in the background and I have no idea what's going on this laptop. See, what if I just stop there? Okay, I'll stop there real fast. I'll go back up, read the commentary. So here's the last commentaries by Mother Rytasha on the Religion of Love commentary book we worked on together. And traveling the world, we went to the great places of pilgrimage, thinking there to refresh ourselves. There are places in the world that are considered places of pilgrimage, and you will see very often there are very beautiful buildings that have been built there. But we do not go there because of the buildings, but because of the spiritual people who have been there and sat and who gave the spiritual into the world, and thus created an atmosphere that enlivens and refreshes you. But everywhere was found corruption, and there she was asked to speak, and thousands came to hear. Very often, a great spiritual personality will have come to a place and given spiritual knowledge. And spiritual knowledge isn't the same as material knowledge. For material knowledge is something you know in your mind, and you can spit it out like a parrot. Spiritual knowledge brings you to a different platform. And what has often happened, because a lot of people will have come there, there is another person, again, exploiting this. And we will see they build something and they ask money for one to come there and they make a business out of it. And that's the last of Mother Rytasha's commentaries. So, switching from tablet mode to book mode, going analog. Oops, sorry, I lost my place. Here we go. And she began right away speaking of this corruption. So the keepers of the shrine were not pleased, and rushed forward and rebuked her thus, saying, "You stand on holy ground. Here you may not be offensive." And we were worried, for these were powerful people, and we had come not to cause trouble, but to bring the message of God. And she stopped them and began to pray. And all were silent and waited, and watching her it seemed to me as though she was not praying, but listening. Yeah, religious leaders are quite powerful, aren't they? They have a lot of political influence, they have a lot of wealth, they command armies even, and it can be dangerous to go against, the status quo, to speak out against corruption. It could be quite dangerous, quite deadly. This we have seen, have we not? And here you may not be offensive. So, in the scriptures, we are warned not to be offensive to God, God's message, God's holy names, to God's devotees. Vaishnav aparad is called the offense to a devotee of God. It destroys all your accumulated pious merit in life. It's a very dangerous thing. You never want to offend a devotee of God. So, of course, Mother Rytasha and all the disciples of hers, they don't come with such an intention. Of course not. They want to just share the message of love. As he says, we were worried, for these are powerful people, and we had come not to cause trouble, but to bring the message of God. And it's never the purpose of a devotee or a disciple or lover of God to cause trouble. They are the friend to all. They are the lover of God, lover of everything in God's creation. But sometimes it is necessary to speak out against the offenses that others are doing in the name of religion. Because if you stay silent and the people do not know that they're being led astray, then they'll be lost. And they will remain lost in this world. So out of great compassion and out of great risk, the devotee of God will often go out into the world and preach, not caring for what might happen to them, but only concerned with pleasing God and sharing the message. And when she finished, and all were silent and waited, and watching her, it seemed to me as though she was not praying, but listening. And when she finished, she lifted her head and spoke, saying, I have been warned by you not to offend anyone, but I hope now to be very offensive, yes, extremely offensive, to all who make of religion a business. Sounds like Mother Rytasha got very angry in this instance. And there is such a thing as anger in spiritual life. It does happen, as Mother Rytasha said in commentaries before. It's a misconception that spiritual people, are always just hugs and rainbows and niceties, And she gave the example of Jesus when he was in front of the Temple of Solomon, and there were all these money lenders and hawkers and all this, shady business dealings going on right in front of the temple, right in front of God's house. Jesus took a rod in his hand and started wrecking all the stalls, all the tables, all the tents, just started destroying everything and speaking out against this corruption. Same with Moses. She gave the example, when Moses came back from atop Mount Sinai, carrying the 10 Commandments to guide the people who had just were freed from the clutches of slavery and bondage by the mercy of God. And what does he find? He finds all the people are now worshiping some fake gods, false idols. He was so pissed. He grabs the tablets and goes, and slams them on the ground. Tablets God gave him. And then he's like, oh my God, these are the tablets God gave me. So he had to go back up the mountain and get more. So he was very angry. But not angry on his personal account. Not angry because he was personally offended, but angry because God was being offended. This message was being offended, and the greatest blasphemies were taking place in misleading the people. It's said that there is a special hell for those who mislead others on a spiritual path. This is very, very offensive to God. So the spiritual master here is hoping to be very offensive against all these false people, these fake preachers who are making of religion a business. She says, you I hope to offend, and you who squeeze out the last coin from the poor through fear and superstition, you also I offend. Yeah, haven't we seen this? Aren't people coerced into giving their money? In so many different faiths we can see this. In India, people will dress fakely like a sadhu, and go around with some fake, puja paraphernalia to try and solicit money, and if you don't give money, it's considered, it's not bad luck, and how they coerce people, or even how I've seen India many times, people build a shrine, build some temple, just with the purpose to just get money of all the travelers coming by. It's how it is, and how they pass a hat in the church and everywhere, to give money. It's always after your money. And oftentimes, they'll use fear and superstition to get this money from you. Will they not? Put the fear of God in you. Oh, you must give, purify your heart by giving money to the church, and thus your soul will be saved, and you won't go to eternal damnation. This is this fear they put into people, how they control people by such fear. Not just religion, even we see political states do the same thing. They use fear to control the masses, cause hysteria, make people panic, that there's this great danger looming, so you must trust in the state that they're going to protect you and thus take away all of your freedoms. Yeah, these superstitions. There's a lot of superstitions out there. If it's not in the scriptures, then I wouldn't bank your life on it. But there's so much superstition, so much false philosophies and cultural idioms and norms that people think is what religion's all about, but it's not. These are just temporary things, and most of them just not even real. There's, like in Native American culture, we know of many superstitions. For example, the Dene, the Navajo, they think that ashes are holy. So therefore they can't put ashes from a fire in any special place. They have to take care of it very properly, or they can't mix it with some things for compost. And other Native Americans are like, what are you talking about? Maybe ashes from the sacred fire, from the altar. And they're like, no, all ashes are holy. And then there's bad superstitions if you don't do something wrong with the ashes. Things like this go on. I used to live and preach in West Africa, and there's a lot of superstitious stuff in Africa. Oh my goodness, it's quite a crazy place. So these are not the things that God has given. Mostly these are man-made things. And what's terrible is when people in the name of religion exploit the superstitions of a culture, exploit the fears of the people in order to control them and steal their money. Just what we see. And crying aloud, "O you thieves, whores, and hypocrites, so careful are you to cover your heads. Do you not know yet it is what is in your head, not on your head, that matters to God?" Thieves, yeah, we covered that. Whores and hypocrites. Well, hypocrite is someone who says one thing but does another. And we've seen that before, right? Do as I say, not as I do. Or we've seen these false religious leaders tell people, don't do this, don't do that, but in their private life they're doing all sorts of nonsense. Yeah, they're hypocrites. They're just religious in name only. They're not actually living out the scriptures, not living the message of God. Excuse me. Pardon me. And whores. Whores. It says in the Old Testament, one of those 10 commandments that Moses brought from the mountain, says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And we know of adultery as a spouse cheating on their spouse with some other person, right? But that's not. Yes, that is true, and we aren't meant to fool around like that. Obviously, we're meant to, be gentlemen, be ladies, be faithful to God and to our marriage vows, obviously. But on a deeper level, it's talking about adultery in our faith. By worshiping others than God, this is adultery to the Lord. You have adulterated your heart. And as the saying goes, you cannot serve two masters, both God and money. So those who make their life's purpose, the accumulation of wealth, or just the seeking of pleasures for their own selves, or serving one's temporary country, this is adultery within the heart. This is a sidestep from the path. Do you not know yet is what is in your head, not on your head, that matters to God? That's a good point. Yeah. What's in your head? What's in your consciousness? That's what's important. What is your intention? What are you actually doing? It doesn't matter what you look like or what you wear. I remember for a couple of weeks we stayed at the Golden Temple complex in Amritsar doing some preaching work and doing an eye camp in the Punjab in India. And to be within the complex, you have to always cover your head. Everybody, regardless who you are, everyone has to cover their head. And I remember I had to go buy some whatever bandana or whatever cloth to put on my head. It was like some gaudy orange color. It was all I could find at the time. They make a big deal on covering your head. Yeah, oh yeah. Or they make a big deal on how you dress when you enter the temple. Or your appearance, right? That's not really a big deal, honestly. What matters most to God is what is in your heart, what is in your mind, what is your intentions. That's what really matters most to God. But of course, people mostly focus on the outer signs and symbols of religion, the outer teachings, which are given according to custom, culture, time, and circumstance. They're not eternal. They're temporary, and they're not really what religion's all about. Religion's all about the inner teaching, about purifying our heart and mind and coming again to our natural state of love of God. That's what it's all about. And you can cover your head or uncover your head. You can wear a long sleeve or a short sleeve, or pants or shorts, doesn't matter. Just dress modestly. That's all the Quran says about dress code, to be honest. Just dress modestly, men and women. That's it. But doesn't matter what you wear. It's not, as we go again, talk about beards and beads in a second. Yeah, you with your beads and beards. On the hunger of the ignorant you have grown fat. Yeah, this is common in the East. Grow a beard, put a bunch of beads on you, have the robes, put some markings, some paint on your body, you're a holy man now. Yeah, now you are someone who we have to listen to, or else we're going to get in trouble, right? Give them your money. This is nonsense. It's just putting on a costume, really. As it says before in the books, that one may appear as master and is not, and one may not appear as such, but is. So you can never tell by the outward appearance of somebody who they really are. Just like a donkey may be seen carrying many books, that doesn't mean the donkey's a scholar. With all them books, it's just a donkey. Just because someone's looks the part, looks very spiritual, that doesn't mean anything. It just tells you what they want you to think about them, really. Not necessarily who they really are. I mean, that doesn't mean that an actual holy person won't dress like that. Sure, there have been actual holy people that looked and dressed a certain way like that, but but most people know about that, and so that's how they try to copy and imitate and take advantage of others. You with your beads and beards, on the hunger of the ignorant you have grown fat. And pointing to the costly building, she said, instead of knowledge, you give stone. Your hands are full of blood and money. Yeah, we know about the money part, and we know that in religion, in the name of God, in organized religion, I should say. Remember, religion is the process and practices by which we come again to God. Re, again, legio, to link. So religion is a process. Religion's something that's inside yourself, something you do. Like the word Islam. Islam means surrender to the will of God. It's a verb. It's an action. That's what it is. It's not a noun. It's not a thing. It's not a person, place, or thing. It's not an organization, although that's what we perceive. Someone joined the survey the other day. He was all hung up on that word religion because he couldn't separate in his mind that word with all the corrupt organizations and falsities he's seen in this world. They've hijacked that word, which really just means the process in your heart coming again to God. So, in organized religion, we have seen in the name of God, so many terrible atrocities and terrors have been committed. We've seen many people killed. We've seen genocides even take place, murders, rapes, oh my gosh, torture. So much bad things have happened by so-called religious people. So, yeah, their hands are full of blood. And, oh my gosh, back to the Native American reality here in the States, the church, Christian church, has done terrible deeds, stealing children from their homes, killing them while they're in these boarding schools and they acted unruly. I mean, they're still uncovering the bones and bodies of so many indigenous youths all around the Americas, perpetrated by the church. Oh my gosh. I mean, how awful is that? Anyway, not going to get on a tangent, but yeah, a lot of these religious organizations have blood on their hands. Their hands are full of blood and money. your mouths are filled with lies of honey. And as Mother Tasha said in the previous comments, that the religious leaders of these organizations, they're very much like politicians. They promise everything, but give you nothing. They're pandering to the people. They're people pleasers. They're trying to get you to just believe them so that you do what they want you to do. This is exactly like a politician, is it not? And then once they have power over you, have control over you, they don't promise any of the things they don't deliver any of the promises they make, just like a politician. But your hearts are empty of love. Remember, as it said, though you walk upon the path to God, praying aloud and speaking much of Scripture, if you develop not love, and the kindness to others which proves this love, though you walk upon the path to God, you walk in the opposite direction, away from God. So, if someone's hearts are empty of love, and you can see this practically by how they act. So if you really want to know somebody, see what they're really like, look at how they act. Look at their lives. See what they actually do. Are they loving? Are they kind? Are they merciful? Are they gentle? Are they meek? Are they humble? These are the real qualities of a holy person, of a devotee of God. Another example, Mother Rytasha told me, someone might actually say the right thing and do the right thing, but they might be fake inside. They're just biding their time, right? Mother Rytasha said something funny. She said, you never know what a person is who really like. They're like tea bags until you put them in hot water. Then you know what kind of tea they are. Put them under pressure. And I saw that. I saw that recently, and I'll share. Some of you know the example. We visited an old friend of mine, classmate, who became a preacher in another state in America. And boy, was he saying nice things, and he was smiling big, and he was so friendly. And then after so many days, some topic really triggered him, and he couldn't contain himself any longer. He got put in some hot water, because philosophically he couldn't refute what I was telling him, because I was just speaking from the scriptures. Not scriptures he was familiar with. He, of course, blasphemes against other scriptures except the one he knows. And he was put into hot water. And then his true colors really came out. And then, was he saying all sorts of bad things. And boy, did that smile turn into a scowl. So, give it time. You'll see what people really like. And when it comes to spiritual personalities, when it comes to spiritual teachers, we have to be very, very discriminating. Discrimination, I know the word, especially here in the West, is used in tandem with awful things like racism and sexism and things like that. But no. Discrimination really just means the mind's ability to see something for what it is and to separate things, such as I've used this example, going to the market and you want to buy a nice fruit. Well, you're discriminating between all the different fruits. Okay, this one's not so ripe, this one's overripe, this one's nice. That's the power of discrimination. So we must be very discriminating and be really keen observers of those who present themselves as spiritual teachers, and look very, very carefully at what they say, and more importantly, what they do. And sometimes it takes time. I know I observed Mother Rytasha for years. I was very skeptical. I'm still skeptical of spiritual personalities. I observed her for years, before I fully surrendered myself unto her teachings and accepted her as my master and asked for initiation. And the reason why I finally came around is because I saw, after all that time, she never once wavered from her actions and her words, and never once did she teach anything that wasn't from the scriptures. This is the true hallmark of a real devotee, a real teacher, is that they don't make up their own thing, they don't twist their own philosophy. They just give the pure message of God, that's it, without change or alteration. And they live the message they speak. They live God's message. They live the scriptures, not the doctrines taught by the organizations created by man. Let's just face it. I know this is going to trigger a lot of people, but there's a lot of doctrines, a lot of books, a lot of things that are written by religious organizations that they say is supreme absolute, but it's not. Only what God has given is the supreme absolute truth, not what man has given. And usually what they give in these doctrines created by these organizations and various sects are twisted versions of the message, not the real. You chastise me, saying, do not be offensive, but I tell you, it is you and your ways that are offensive, to God and to man. Oh my gosh. Boy, do I talk. See, when Mother Rytasha's not the one giving commentary, and you let me go give commentary, look at me blab on. I didn't even get to the next part. Really fast, I'll just say. And before any action could come against her, she walked out among the pilgrims and said, and you, the pilgrims who traverse half the world to look upon the stones and bones of saints, you who in his own lifetime would not have gone one step with him. Right. Who would actually want to do exactly as the prophets say? I mean, Jesus said to this rich man when he asked him, how do I enter paradise? And Jesus said, give up everything you own to the poor and follow me. And the guy was like, everything I own? Everything my father worked so hard to build? Everything? And Jesus says, yeah, everything. And the guy's like, oh, and he disappears. He doesn't know, too attached to his money. Can you imagine all these so-called Christians if Jesus was right here in the flesh right now and he said to you, give up everything you own and follow me, would you actually do it? All you so-called Christians, I don't think they would. I mean, maybe some would. God bless them. See, people are just in name only. So not only do we have a bunch of fake religious teachers, we have a lot of fake religious followers. And Mother Rytasha said, the fake students get the fake teacher. This happens. Oh, and also, it also says in the scriptures that, I believe it's the Bhagavad Gita, that says, for one who goes to a place of pilgrimage just to take a bath, or just for themselves, but not to associate with holy persons to hear knowledge to benefit your spiritual life, then you're no better than a cow or ass or donkey. So, and I was fearful and thought, now some terrible thing may happen here. Oh yeah, really poking the bear of the status quo, the norm of materialism. But the people were good and surprised me, saying, it is true as she says, and asked of her, speak to us then. And she did, simply and clearly, and answered all questions till understanding grew. This is how it happens, see? You ask questions, you inquire from a real authority, someone who really lives the message, and what happens, your understanding, your clarity of the message grows and grows. And this she did for several days. So, the devotee of God only's purpose is to share the message and be of service. So, Mother Rytasha always traveled here and there, and so she stayed several days with these people because they still had questions. As long as they had questions and were hungry to hear, she stayed. The devotee continues to preach and share the message. And oftentimes, late into the night, oftentimes not getting enough sleep, neglecting their own bodies. I've seen Mother Rytasha neglect her own body many times so that she could stay with people longer and longer and longer to share the message as long as they were hungry to hear. And then as soon as she could tell that they had no more questions or they had enough, she'd get up and go off to the next place. And this she did for several days, and the people were in awe, saying, why has no one told us this before? And they became curious, asking, who is she who comes among us? And I guess we'll stop there for next time. All right, let me switch gears. Okay, now does anyone have any questions related to the class?
Yeah, I have a question if no one else has one.
Yeah, brother.
This is a bit related, it was a question that came up. I've had this question that was related to the Gita, but in class today, I came back to it. And you kind of mentioned, some people are fake with religion, and, Mother Rytasha was confronted and was told not to commit offenses, but, it was actually the other people who were committing offenses to God. The question I had mostly was in the Gita. It was saying, it was 329. It was the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them, because even though these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So my question was like, are we supposed to just let them be and not bother with them because they're just being ignorant, or are we supposed to engage with them?
Excellent question, actually. Great question, mate. So, something I have learned the hard way. The lesson I'm still learning. Mother Rytasha said, and referring back to the Vedic scriptures, this one, the Srimad Bhagavatam, she said, one of the first teaching she said was, you speak the truth always when it is beneficial. That's the important part, when it is beneficial. It's not always beneficial in the moment to speak the truth. For someone who's just some lay person who's not following rightly, they might not be practicing religion correctly, or they believe some philosophies that's not in accord with the scriptures properly. She said that to beat them on the head like a bat with the truth, is not a kind thing to do. You don't want to destroy one's faith. That's not. Yeah, that's very cruel to do. And in such a circumstance like that, don't use the truth like a bat to beat someone with. You don't want to disturb someone's faith. It also says in the Gita and in the other Vedic scriptures that people are generally inclined to a specific form of worship depending on what mode or level of consciousness they're in. So having some faith is better than having no faith at all. Now, of course, sometimes it is necessary to speak out, and it is necessary to say something about the corruption, about the false things. And that's something I can't really say, with a playbook, in this situation do this, in this situation do that. But let's analyze what happened with Mother Rytasha. So she was invited to a holy place to speak the truth, to speak the message of God. And then when she gets there to the place she's invited to, she sees wanton corruption, wanton materialism in the name of God, in the name of religion. And all these people getting duped. So in such a situation that she was put in, and in such a public situation, she couldn't not speak the truth. And I know now I'm assuming here, I'm speculating, but there's that part in the book where it says, and watching her, and she stopped then and began to pray, and all were silent and waited, and watching her it seemed to me as though she was not praying but listening. So I understood here that she didn't just immediately go out and speak out against the corruption. She thought long and hard, she prayed long and hard, and and she's a direct servant, confidential master, servant of God. So she probably is just getting instruction, listening to the Lord within her heart on what is the right thing to do in this situation. Is this a time to be silent and just let the people be, and just live in the truth and just I be the example? Or should I speak out and speak the truth, even though it's not popular, even though it's going to make enemies, in the eyes of others, and it's going to totally unsettle the establishment who profit off of the lies, and they're going to now see such a person speaking out against this corruption as a threat, and may do some terrible things to that person, or at least attempt to. So she didn't just, speak the first thing that came out of her mind. She prayed very intently. And that's all I can say, is that really pray about it and look at the situation and think, is this going to be beneficial for your spiritual life and for others in this moment? And this takes a lot of practice. This takes a lot of, discipline in spiritual life, and a really, advanced intelligence, being advanced on the path to be able to discern, what's the right call in this moment. I know I have made the mistake many times of speaking when I should have been silent. And even recently, being silent when I should have been speaking. So it's a very tough situation to be in. And it's hard. It's hard to know what's the right thing to do in any situation. And we make mistakes. Unfortunately, we're still in conditioned consciousness. We're still purifying. We're still cleaning our hearts and minds. And we still make mistakes, just like children learning to walk again. We're trying to become again in our natural state, our natural consciousness of love of God. So mistakes, will be made along the way. But we just keep trying our best and we keep learning that situation. But yeah, for the most part, people in their homes or just people, in their own little group, doing their own thing, just go in there and be like, y'all are wrong. Y'all are not doing this rightly. This is what the scripture actually said. This is completely nonsense what you're doing. What you're saying is incredibly offensive to God. The way you're practicing and living is offensive to God and man. And even though that might be 100% true, really, what does that make you look like when it's not the right time and place? It just makes God, what a jerk. Who is this guy? And now he's automatically seen by everybody as this madman, as this outlier, and and immediately dismissed. Or worse, they get angry at you, or worse, you make people feel bad. It's not going to work out. It won't be good for either case, either parties. It's just going to create enmity. So don't use the truth like a bat to beat people with. Even though you know better, even though you know the scriptures, you know what is what. And by God's grace, you know what's what. That you've been able to hear the truth and that you can see clearly what is real and what is false, what is actual religion and what is man-made twisted philosophies. So God bless you for that. But time and place, you got to know when it's beneficial. Speak the truth when it is beneficial. I hope that helps, brother.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
I'm still learning this myself. Anyone else have any question?
I have a question. I hope you can hear me very well because I'm sick. You can hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I know you're not feeling well.
That part of teaching that please correct me if I didn't understand 100%. That part, Mother Rytasha said about going to the pilgrimage and you have to associate with the holy persons. If not, is not a pilgrimage actually.
Yeah, that's from the I believe the Bhagavad Gita, or maybe the Bhagavatam. It's from one of the Vedic scriptures I read. Yes.
Right. So I'm also very skeptical and don't trust people easily about the spirituality and the spiritual teaching and their path. But I was imagining myself that if I go to the pilgrimage, to the place that maybe it's just going to be there for one time and I have to move on and I don't know people, and how should I trust? I know the signs of a real spiritual master, but if I see people, I want to associate, and also at the same time, I'm afraid to associate, to not get a right teaching from them or right association from them. I prefer to avoid or just a little have a conversation than sit and talk to them because I'm afraid to that association not be good for me for the spirituality. So what should I do? So if I go there with the mentality that I really want to go there for pilgrimage and associate with the energy over there, in that holy place. But at the same time, I am afraid to that person is not legit to I have associated with. What should I do? So if my pilgrimage is not complete.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Complete? You mean, oh, well,
Means not acceptable
well,
by God.
no. The point of going to a place of pilgrimage, as she says, there to be refreshed. And the reason why for a devotee going to a holy place is so refreshing is because the atmosphere of such a holy place is so spiritually enlivening because of holy people that have been there, holy personalities, and who've shared the pure spiritual. It is a holy person who makes a place a holy place. That's what makes a place a pilgrimage. It's the saintly people that have gone there. And what it was saying in the scriptures is that one who goes to a place of pilgrimage just to take a bath, or just with the intention to just look at the buildings, take a picture, look at the stones and bones of saints, right? That's their intention, and totally neglect everybody else. I know in the also in Vedic culture, to go into the temple in the Vedas just to look at the deities, for example, but ignore all the devotees there. Some of them maybe even advanced devotees. You're a third class spiritualist. You're not very advanced at all. Very low. So, what is your intention? God sees your intention. See, if you already have the intention that you want to associate with spiritual personalities or devotees to benefit your spiritual life, well, God knows your intention, but most people don't have any of that intention. So that's what it's talking about. And it seems you've already know rightly to look very carefully at others. And as we explain in this class, and as you know very well, look how people act. Look what they're doing, and you can see quite clearly if if they're the real deal or not, or if they're just one more of the sheep, just following like the masses, just the gibberish that's regurgitated on and on and on and on by all the sectarian organized religions, or if someone's an actual practicing devotee who's kind, loving, meek, gentle, generous, devout, and disciplined in the truth. You can see these things, and I'm sure rightly you can notice these things too. I mean, you and I have traveled to some places together, and you and I could tell right away, who were just, just the whatever fake followers of religions, and who were actual devotees of God, who are really surrendered souls. And I know you know this, too. And you can see it quite quickly in their face too. One great spiritual master said, "The face is the index of the mind." You can really read someone's mind by looking at their face, seeing what's going on there. And this is very true. We've seen this. And is it not true when you and I have encountered actual advanced devotees of God? Just doesn't their face just glow? Don't you just see such kindness and humility in their eyes?
Yeah.
So yeah, you've seen this, and then of course, as the opposite goes, those who are the fake followers, who are puffed up, prideful, arrogant, angry, all this, or greedy. You can see that too, you can see that as well. No, I'm not saying you got to be a face reader to understand these things, and of course we can misinterpret, of course, signs. We're not like advanced detectives or something, but yeah, be careful, guard your spiritual life, and if no one is good association, if you end up going to a holy place or a holy place of pilgrimage, and nobody is there that you found to be really living the message, to really have that love, that kindness, that gentleness that you can associate with, then don't associate with anybody. Mother Rytasha said, if there's no good association around you, you be the good association for you. Does that help, love?
Yeah, thank you. I misunderstood some parts. Now it's clear for me. Thank you.
You bet. I'll tell you some other mystical stuff that happens with places of pilgrimage. Is that often with these places that are sanctified because of holy people that have been there in the past, they've been purified. And yes, of course, just going to such a place is purifying. That being in such an atmosphere, if you have some mood of reverence, of course, you're remembering God. You're perhaps engaged in some form of service, hearing, chanting, remembering, maybe in some form or another. And it can be purifying, and people go and they can release and dump their karmic reactions in such a place. And as long as there's continuing real holy people there that can keep sanctifying such a place, they can keep purifying that. But if there's a place where there's no more real holy people, and tons of pilgrims keep coming just to dump their karma and leave their garbage there and then go, just imagine like at a public park, if everyone goes to enjoy and leaves all their trash, and there's no sanitation experts that come to take away the trash, the trash just piles up. It gets nasty. The same with holy places. If there's no continual presence or visiting of actual holy people to such holy places, then all that negative, all that karmic reaction, they just build, and those places can become pretty chaotic and actually toxic for one's spiritual life, actually. Can you imagine? So
is it why some people going to some special holy places and go mad because of that?
Oh no, that's something else. What you're referring to is, and this is when I was at the Religion of Love Center in Benares, India, where we were trained. And Benares is one such holy place. Benares or Varanasi, ancient name Kashi. I mean, this name, you can read about Kashi in the Ramayana. It's millions of years old. So this is a holy place. And she said that places such as this, where the atmosphere is so surcharged with auspiciousness, are so powerful that these energies have the ability to act on you and make your spiritual practices kind of go into overdrive. In a sense, putting more pep in your step on the path made straight. And it's true. I've experienced this myself when I was in Benares. I felt that when I was there, I was letting go of so much stuff, way more than I was in other places. Now, of course, I was engaged in tons, nonstop, all day long devotional service under the guidance of my spiritual master, having association in class with my spiritual master, of course. And then there's the Ganges River right there, very holy river. So all this association and being in that holy place is very, very purifying, and something that you don't really experience in like just some regular place. It's very, very powerful, very potent. That's why it's recommended, if one can live in a holy place, a pilgrimage to practice, because it's more of an auspicious environment. And also because in such a place, you're more likely to run across people who are also similarly on a path or transcendentalists. But she also warned that the energy of such places, that because they're so powerful, some people who aren't aware of what's going on or are too much in their head, sometimes that energy can be very, very disturbing, and sometimes a person trapped in their mind, put in overdrive, can go mad. And I've seen that in Benares. I've seen foreigners, Westerners, wandering the streets of Benares like madmen. Really. They lost their mind. Probably took a little bit of drugs too, I'm sure. They were laced with something, but that probably didn't help. But that's what that's talking about. But not like every place has that energy, you know. And sometimes you have to be really, in tune to such things. And I can't say, I'm not like, I don't want to get into like woo woo stuff, where you go around and like, I sense this place has high energy. Oh, this place is low energy. I'm not going to go into that nonsense, have a little spiritual meter, boom, boom, like a Geiger counter. No. Now you can't really pick up on this stuff like by any material instruments. And it's just something, for someone who's engaged in spiritual practice, you can feel like, when you get up early in the morning, at least for me in Benares, chanting your rounds at 4 a.m. till sunrise, I feel like a lot more focused there. I feel like I'm getting really deeper into my prayer. I can feel I'm letting go a lot of stuff, a lot of anger, a lot of things like that. Like, I'm changing a lot, changing more into my real self. These are things that you can observe, and then you can say like, wow, that was a special place. As I told, like, we countered some place in the desert in California. We found that I felt some of that same energy. I felt like, wow, my prayers, my spiritual practice getting really strong here. I don't know what's going on with this place, So that's what that's talking about. Anyone have any more questions? Yeah. A few minutes left. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Well, thank you all for coming, and all glories to Mother Rytasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, Jai, and thank you for all your wonderful commentaries, Mother Rytasha. I know I've got impossible shoes to fill, and I really am not qualified to comment, not even nearly as good as you did, but I'm trying my best by your grace to share the message. And thank you all for joining me and hearing the message as well. Jai.
Jai, thank you.
Jai. Awesome. Thank you for class.